welcome to this episode of Inside the PSC, where we take a look at the inner workings of the West Virginia Public Service Commission. I'm your host, Alexis Weimer, and today we're going to be talking about a central unit of the Public Service Commission, being our engineering division. I can't think of another office within the commission that has quite as many duties. They're very busy, but I don't want to get into that. I'm going to let our guests talk about it. With me today is Mr. Jim Ellers, the acting director of the engineering division after the division's first director, Earl Mountain, retired at the end of the year. Jim, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
We're happy to have you. Before we dive into it, we're going to take a quick look at a video from our chairman, Charlotte Lane, about how to save on your energy consumption in the winter months.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Lane, chairman of the West Virginia Public Service Commission. We're now into the winter season. I would like to offer you a few suggestions on how to lower utility bills. The major one involves replacing your furnace filters. The U.S. Department of Energy says the average homeowner can save up to 15% on heating and cooling bills with this one simple step. A filter full of dust or pet hair makes your furnace work harder. It's like you trying to breathe when your nose is congested. You should inspect your furnace and air conditioning filters regularly and consider replacing filters every 3 months. The Family Handyman website says most filters these days display a minimum efficiency reporting value, what they call MERV. MERV helps consumers make informed choices. The higher the MERV, the cleaner the filtering process. Family Handyman suggests that by opting for a lower MERV filter, that is in the 5 to 10 range, you can catch most particles. This rating level makes your filter more efficient. But for those of you with pets or allergies, you might want to stick with higher MERV ratings. Here are some other ideas. In the United States during winter, the average daytime room temperature is typically around 68 degrees. A reasonable temperature range can be anywhere from 64 to 75 degrees during the day and 60 to 68 degrees at night. If you wear warm clothing or use a blanket, you can be comfortable at 64 degrees. The Food and Drug Administration says your ideal fridge temperature should be 40 or below and your freezer kept at 0 degrees. This site also suggests that to help your refrigerator work most efficiently, you should maintain a room temperature of 65 to 75 degrees. Like you, I'm constantly on the lookout for ways to trim my power bills while maintaining comfort at home. I hope these few ideas that I have found helpful might also be helpful to you.
Those were certainly some very helpful tips. Well, Jim, I'm just going to jump right into it. You've had a pretty extensive career at the PSC, but what did you do before you got here?
Well, I'm originally from Charleston, West Virginia. I was born and raised on the east end of Charleston. I'm a graduate of the West Virginia Institute of Technology, which at that time was in Montgomery, and now it's in Beckley. My first job out of college, before joining the state as an employee, I was an electrical engineer for the U.S. Navy, a civilian engineer working in Virginia right out of college. And sometime after that, in 1991, a place that I'd never heard of before called the Public Service Commission of West Virginia called me and asked me if I would be interested in employment with them. And it was an opportunity for us to come back home, my family and I, which we were very much interested in at the time. So I came back to Charleston, and I've been with the state of West Virginia for 34 years approximately ever since then. Outside of my state employment, I also had approximately 24-year career in the Army National Guard. I served in various capacities throughout that time. I started out as an enlisted soldier in the Army National Guard and was commissioned as an officer through the college's ROTC program at West Virginia Tech, and retired after 24 years of service, and I'm currently in the retired reserve.
Wow, that's awesome, Jim. Well, what led you to the PSC? Is there any particular reason why you wanted a job here with us?
Well, after getting to know what the PSC does and the importance of it, and how what its role is in regulating utilities, that are in essence monopolies. They do not compete in open free markets, so therefore there has to be some type of regulation to control things like rates and the quality of the service that the utilities provide. That was very interesting to me. It was new. It was something that, as a young man that never heard of the PSC before, I hadn't really thought about it. And then once I learned about what the commission does and how important that role is, I got interested in it.
So I understand that the engineering division has 2 separate sections. Why is that, and how many people are in each section?
Yes, the engineering division is currently organized in the 2 sections. There's approximately 6 to 8 employees in each section. In total, the division has somewhere around 18 to 20 employees. We have a few vacancies right now. One section in particular primarily handles electric and gas utility matters. The engineering division, in its role providing advice and recommendations to the commission, we have to deal with the regulation of a spectrum of different utility types. It includes water, sewer, electric, and natural gas utilities. So one of the sections handles electric and natural gas issues. It also has some field inspectors in there that provides some technical assistance on an informal basis to water and sewer utilities. That's one section. The other section is dedicated entirely to the formal water and sewer cases that come before the commission. And that's because there are approximately 600 water and sewer utilities in West Virginia. So it's a large caseload. There's a large number of formal cases that get filed in the commission's quasi-judicial process. So it takes that many of our engineers and staff to process those cases.
Do you feel you have enough staff on your team?
I think we're handling the workload that we have now, but the challenge there is that that workload is cyclical. You can't really estimate or predict when that workload is going to rise and fall. Sometimes it seems that cases all get filed at once, and sometimes you get strained with personnel and the number of resources you have to process those cases. We generally can handle the caseload we have, but it does get more difficult and challenging at times, especially when you have quite a lot of formal cases that get filed all at once.
Yeah, I bet. It seems like a lot. So I know you have a lot of talented people on your staff. Do they strictly work individually between the 2 sections, or do they help each other out sometimes and come together on some issues?
That mainly depends on the types of utilities. With the electric and gas issues, that's normally handled in one section by those technicians and engineers that are specialized in those areas. With regard to the water and sewer utility regulation, both sections are involved in that to some degree. You have one section that handles informal assistance requests from utilities. That's mostly smaller water and sewer utilities that need outside assistance sometimes. And informal complaints that customers will call our 1-800 complaint number, and they'll have a complaint with their quality of service, their water or sewer quality of service, and those inspectors will be involved in that on an informal basis. Sometimes those complaints, we try to resolve them at the informal level. When we're unable to do that, unfortunately, some of those complaints have to transition to a formal case process where it's docketed in the commission's quasi-judicial proceedings. And at that point, then the formal case staff and the informal inspectors will cross-communicate and help each other out. And we will provide resources back and forth, mainly with regard to water and sewer utility regulation between the sections as necessary.
That's awesome. That's great. So when I think of engineers, I picture somebody out on the highways or someone building rockets. Why does the PSC need engineering staff? Can you explain what you guys do?
Well, probably one of the main things that people think of when they think of the PSC is rate regulation and rate jurisdiction, because that's what often becomes higher profile stories are large rate increases that ratepayers have to endure, or that requests to increase rates that regulated utilities make. There's other elements besides that, and that's what the engineering division handles, and that has to do with the reliability and the quality of the service that the utilities provide their customers. That is primarily one of the main, if not the main thing that the engineering division deals with. And that is very different depending on the type of utility that you're served by. For example, the reliability of electric service is measured and regulated very differently than the reliability of your water service. And it takes different types of experience and expertise and technical knowledge to be able to properly regulate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, it's a lot of details I feel like your team would have to be paying attention to. I just want to touch on something. So like, for instance, with our, you know, dated infrastructure, things like that, is that a challenge for your team at all?
Yes, dated infrastructure is always a challenge, and it's a function of it varies from one utility to the next, and certainly the types of utilities. You have overhead utilities such as electric lines, and you have underground utilities. Some electric lines are underground, but you also have mainly the water, sewer, natural gas utilities, which are underground. It's a spectrum. It depends on the utilities, the types of utility, how sophisticated or large or small the utilities are. Many utilities do have aging infrastructure, and that does present a challenge regarding the quality and the consistency and the reliability of the service that they provide.
It almost seems like a bit of detective work too. Your team is out there looking at everything from formal cases to complaints. Are they out in the field inspecting things hands-on?
Yes, we have. Anytime the engineering division is involved in anything, either on an informal basis or in a formal case before the commission, that if field work is necessary in order for us to gather information and collect data and do what we're supposed to do, which is provide, in the formal cases, we're supposed to provide the commission with recommendations to help them make very difficult decisions that they have to make. So that's our primary role in the formal cases. And in the informal cases, it's to provide some type of technical assistance to utilities and or to help customers if they have a complaint or a concern about their service quality or reliability. And so yes, we have inspectors. We aren't quite as large as some of the other agencies that do field work. The commission has no district offices. Other agencies that regulate a single utility or service type, for example, they may have multiple district offices in remote parts of the state with more field staff. And the Public Service Commission doesn't have district offices. So virtually all of our engineering staff is located and based out of Charleston. But regardless of that, we will travel to whatever area of the state we have to and collect data and inspect things as necessary in order for us to either attempt to resolve an informal complaint, provide some assistance to a utility, or to make recommendations to the commission in a formal case.
That's awesome. Well, what's your greatest area of interest within the PSC?
Well, my interests personally would probably be somewhat varied. My undergraduate degree is in electrical engineering, and so my first job out of college was in that capacity. And then when I came to work for the state, for the Public Service Commission in West Virginia, I was assigned some water and sewer regulatory duties. So even though my undergraduate degree was in electrical engineering, I learned a lot and became involved in quite a lot of technical issues that are more of a civil sanitary engineering discipline. So having worked in that for many years, I developed an interest in water and sewer, in the quality of the service and the reliability of those utility services. But later on, I also became involved in the regulation of electric and the natural gas utilities as well. When I was actually promoted to manager, and I actually managed the section that deals with electric and gas for about 10 years. And so after that, I became very interested in electric reliability and became involved in that mainly because of my undergraduate degree and former education in that area.
So in terms of when you all deal with water, do you work with more rural water supplies, or are you working with municipal water systems and sewer systems?
Yes, we work quite a lot with smaller systems, and sometimes that's just systems that do not have some type of in-house expertise, or they don't understand commission rules and regulations, and we help them and advise them on how best to comply with commission rules and regulations, and or to resolve complaints that customers may have. And we try to do that at the lowest level possible, which is an informal level where we have a field inspector who might travel to a location, collect some information, and then provide an opinion to the utility on how best to resolve a complaint or resolve an issue and comply with our rules.
I want to jump back to your staff real quick before we get deeper into this, because I want to show a video from the chairman about recruiting. But before that, say somebody wants to work for the engineering division. What do you look for in a candidate?
Well, we look for a candidate that certainly has a passion to serve the public and to serve the state. And you know, the commission staff, our role, we're not supposed to be advocates for anyone. We're supposed to be an unbiased staff, an unbiased expert who offers advice to the commission. We're not a utility advocate, nor are we a consumer advocate necessarily. We are supposed to review a situation, an issue, and recommend what's in the public interest without any type of bias or interest in that issue. So we would look for folks that are interested in doing something like that, in serving the public and the state, and that would be involved, that would be interested in regulating utilities. And it also has a desire to learn and grow, even if it's outside whatever discipline their initial education might be.
Okay, that's the next thing I was going to ask. You'll take anybody with an engineering background?
The engineering positions that we have available require a 4-year bachelor's degree in engineering typically, and it's the disciplines are, it's just about any, we'll take any discipline.
That's awesome.
Some of the ones, for example, chemical engineering, that undergraduate discipline in and of itself may apply a little less to what we do, but a lot of the basics are still there. And what you haven't obtained in your undergraduate education, you'll learn on the job working there.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. You guys are always busy and you get to work on the field. So on that note, we're going to take a quick look at a video from the chairman about getting nosy and maybe inspire some of you at home to want to come work for the commission.
Hello, I'm Charlotte Lane, Chairman of the West Virginia Public Service Commission. I'm going to be nosy. Are you looking for a job? Are you even thinking about looking for a job? Do you know someone who is looking for a job? If so, I'd like to suggest that you broaden your horizons and consider a career instead. The Public Service Commission of West Virginia has positions open, and we are actively recruiting. Our professional staff includes people with a wide variety of talents and abilities. We hire lawyers, engineers, accountants, secretaries and clerical workers, IT professionals, and police officers. You might find your calling in an office, in the field inspecting gas pipelines, or patrolling the highways for overweight trucks. Whether you are a recent graduate or a seasoned professional who is looking for a change, we hope you will consider the Public Service Commission. Our employees enjoy full state benefits such as health insurance, including vision and dental, paid leave, a retirement program, and an education reimbursement program. We offer a safe and supportive work environment, opportunities for advancement, and the bonus of being able to serve the people of West Virginia. To see what positions are currently available, go to our website at www.psc.state.wv.us and click on Employment Opportunities. Positions are posted for a limited time, but will be reposted if not filled, so check back often. And if you have a feeling that the Public Service Commission might be the right place for you, go ahead and send in your resume in care of our HR manager. Who knows, this might be your lucky day and ours.
Well, this has been very interesting so far. So, is your expertise available to the general public through a phone call, or are there other procedures that one would need to use to reach the PSC engineers?
Yes, our expertise is available. Our phone numbers are on the Commission's website at www.psc.state.wv.us, and so anyone who wants to contact the Engineering Division directly can contact myself or any members of the division. I would say for those utility customers who have complaints, we have processes in place to process those complaints, and that on an informal basis, that involves calling the Commission's 1-800 number, which is on the Commission's website as well. We have consumer affairs technicians that receive those complaints, process them, log them in so that we have a record of it, and it's just for tracking purposes and for coordination and organization. So we don't really take those complaints directly, although we can. If we do, we will steer the customer in the right direction to do that. As far as the formal complaint applications or the formal complaint forms go, there's complaint forms that customers need to fill out. It's more of a documented formal process to file those types of complaints. It's not with the Engineering Division directly. Those have to go to the Commission's Executive Secretary's office and be docketed and logged in and verified and so forth.
So Jim, personally, are you more involved on the formal cases when they come in? Or is it a little bit of both between formal and just the complaints? How does that go?
It's both. It's both. As far as the work load, for me personally, it's probably the formal cases, and that's across the whole spectrum of electric, gas, water, and sewer cases. But we are involved in both. And for our field staff, we have 3 field inspectors available that cover the whole state. And obviously, they're more involved in the informal level of cases, complaints, and assistance requests, and so forth. Those inspectors also help our case staff, our formal case staff, in field work. Mm-hmm. For example, we can, if we have to go out and collect data in the field, such as pressure recordings. If a customer thinks their water pressure is inadequate, the Public Service Commission has rules that your water pressure has to be at a minimum level. And so we can go out and record that pressure and make sure that the utility is complying with it. So those are the kind of things that the informal and the formal case staff work together on.
That's awesome. So back into the technical aspect of it, how do you guys measure reliability and the quality of the utilities around us?
Well, it's very different depending on the type of utility that you're talking about. So for example, water system reliability is more, I would say, straightforward and easier to explain in terms of, do you have adequate water pressure? Do you have an adequate flow of water to wherever the point of service is, where you're paying for it, and that's usually the meter, in the case of water, the property line for the customer. In the case of electric, it's very different. Electric has an established set of reliability rules that exist within the Commission's administrative rules. And the electric utilities have to make certain filings, and those reliability standards follow a more structured and a more of a technical requirement than you would see with something like water service or sewer service, for example. In terms of sewer service, it would certainly be that the wastewater is handled once it leaves the customer's premises, that it is handled and processed by the utility without any impact on the customer. So that's I hope that illustrates the differences between water and sewer reliability versus electric reliability.
So how has the Distressed and Failing Utilities Act impacted what your team does? How are you all involved with that?
So the Distressed and Failed Utilities Act was enacted by the legislature a few years ago, and that impacts certain water and sewer utilities. And what it did is it gave the Public Service Commission the authority to adjudicate petitions that are filed with the Commission against utilities that that someone alleges are distressed or failing. Mm-hmm. And there are different parties that can file those petitions. And when those petitions are filed, the commission will adjudicate that. They will review it. The staff we will conduct an investigation and review the allegations made in the petition, and we will form an opinion as to whether we think they're distressed or failed. And that could be a list of a pretty wide range of recommended solutions. It could be anywhere from we don't think they're distressed or failed. We believe there may be yes, they are distressed, and we think maybe a corrective action plan is appropriate, and we would ask that they be ordered to do undertake certain steps in order to improve their service and their reliability. It could, in more extreme cases where you have a utility that we think has failed and isn't capable under the current conditions of maintaining adequate service to the customers, we may recommend that, yes, we believe that the utility has failed, and we will identify what the law refers to as capable proximate utilities. And those are larger capable proximate utilities that we believe possess the capability and the resources and the expertise to either operate and maintain that system, possibly through an operation and maintenance agreement with that utility, or an outright acquisition of that utility by the more capable proximate utility.
Well, beyond DUs, I mean, you guys are really busy all the time. Well, we're about out of time for today, so I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to this episode of Inside the PSC, where we take an inner look at the West Virginia Public Service Commission. And thank you, Jim, for joining us today.
Thank you.